So quiet in here. It's nerve-wracking. Okay. I would like to welcome everybody, and I hereby officially call the meeting to order. This is an open meeting of the Broadcasting Board of Governors. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Government in the Sunshine Act. The live webcast will also be available for later viewing on the BBG website, www.bbg.gov. I actually think we had our best viewing last board meeting, so our ratings are up, which is a good thing. So I want to start this meeting. I'm very honored and pleased to announce that the Senate recently confirmed 3 new members to this board. 2 of them are members of the board officially and have been sworn in. And Michael Kempner, who I'm going to introduce in a second, and Dr. Leon Aaron. Where's Dr. Aaron? Dr. Aaron's not here this morning. He got confirmed so recently that he wasn't able to change his schedule to be here, but he's going to be here. And then the Senate also confirmed Karen Kornblau, who's here today. And unfortunately, since the Senate confirmed like 80 people in an hour, the paperwork hasn't come back from the White House, so we could swear her in. If it comes back during this meeting, we'll swear you in during this meeting, which will be kind of fun. But Karen is here as in a weird role here as a confirmed board member, but not sworn in board member. So technically, Michael Meehan, who Karen's going to be replacing on the board, is still a board member, but is unable to be here today. I think he's on a pre-scheduled trip. So with that, let me turn back over to our new board members. Michael, I'm going to ask you to say a couple words in a second of introduction. Michael, when I first met him when he was nominated to this board, got to know him a bit. He's the founder and president and CEO of MWW, which is a public relations firm that he founded in 1986. He's a board member also of the Goodwill Industries International and a founding board member of Connectone Bancorp. And he served as the White House Counsel for Community Solutions. He served on the White House Council for Community Solutions from 2010 to 2012, a very esteemed and respected person in the PR and communications industry. And it's just a very honor and pleasure to have you joining this board, Michael. I don't know if you'll say a couple words to everybody.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's actually a true honor. The process, as we all know, takes some time to get through. But one of the nice parts about it is I've gotten to know the team, particularly Susie, who has been incredibly helpful, and many of the fellow governors in that time period. So and got to learn much about the organization. So I feel like I am somewhat educated and ready to go, and just happy to be here to be part of this critical mission of our organization. So thank you.
Great. And Matt pointed out that Michael Meehan used to sit next to him, so that is the Michael endowed seat on the board.
Well, I'm glad to follow in his shadow.
So some of us spent time with Dr. Aaron yesterday before he had to leave town, and we'll introduce him more formally at the board meeting in February. But he is in addition to Michael and Karen, he's a very impressive individual too. And actually, given what's happening in the world right now, it is. By the way, Rick Stengel is going to be joining us. I think he's with the secretary. There a couple things happened in the last couple of days, which we'll be hearing from Carlos on one of them in a little bit. But I think Rick is dealing with some other things, and he'll be here this morning. But Dr. Aaron was born in Moscow and was a Soviet citizen, a Russian citizen, before coming to this country and becoming an American citizen and a highly respected academic and scholar. He's the resident scholar and director of Russia Studies at the American Enterprise Institute. He's been that since actually 1993. He was a weekly contributor of Voice of America's Russian language radio and television show Gladia, and he was awarded the Peace Fellowship from the U.S. Institute of Peace from 1992 to 1993. We'll do a more formal introduction of Dr. Aaron when he's here at the next board meeting, but I do, speaking for the board, I can say to have a Russia expert on this board at this moment in time with what we're facing is just fantastic. We have kind of our own Russia expert, Jeff Trimble, but this adds to the Russian expertise here on the board, and we're thrilled to have Dr. Aaron here. And then last but not least, Karen Kornblau. She's the Executive Vice President of External Affairs for Nielsen, responsible for global public policy and privacy strategy and corporate social responsibility. She was the U.S. Ambassador to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, from 2009 to 2012. She was Policy Director for then Senator Barack Obama. And in the Clinton administration, she served as the Deputy Chief of Staff at the U.S. Treasury Department and Director of the Office of Legislative and Intergovernment Affairs at the FCC. A great background, huge addition to this board. And Karen, when you get sworn in, we can't wait to have you actually on the board. Do you want to say a couple words?
Oh, does this work? I guess I'll learn how this works. I really don't have anything to say. I just wanted to say I'm very delighted to be here. I feel very honored to be here. And I'm so looking forward to serving under your chairmanship, which I understand has really revolutionized the way the governance system has worked, and at this incredibly important time in our foreign policy. So I just think it's a very, very exciting time to be here, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Thanks, Karen. And by the way, if we do get the paperwork back from the White House, we are going to swear her in at this meeting. And Karen, I think, and Governor Weinstein are old friends, so further solidifying the nonpartisanship of this board, not bipartisan, nonpartisanship. So we are going to more formally do this at a future board meeting, but I do want to take a couple moments just to thank Michael Meehan for his service on this board. He was the glue between the prior board and this board, the last kind of remaining member of what we refer to as the Walter Isaacson board. He has had an incredible impact on this organization, both in the public, as you've seen on these webcasts, but more behind the scenes, where he's just put in an awful lot of time and across a wide variety of subjects. I know Libby can attest the internet freedom work that's being done in OTF would not exist without Michael Meehan. He tirelessly worked to get that done. It's some of the best work we're doing here at the organization, and he deserves huge credit and thanks for that. He's been a member of just about every committee that has done work on this board. You know, most recently the VOA and shortwave committees, but before that, when I joined the board, he was running the strategy committee, which was essentially doing the budget every year, and working very hard. And he was on communications and outreach and every other committee. He is a good guy. He's a good public servant, and I think that the board, while we're excited to have our new board members, I think the fact that Michael will be leaving this board is a loss for the board. So we're hoping that he's going to stay involved with all the things that the issues that he cares passionately about that we work on here. He assures me he will. And we, at future board meeting, we will make a more formal presentation and thanks to Michael for his service when he's actually physically here in the room. But Michael, if you're watching somewhere, we want to thank you. Thank you. Even though you're still actually technically, until we swear in Karen, Michael is technically still a board member. So if he wants to call in and vote on anything today, he can do that. So let me just stop for a second. Any board members want to make any comments about our new board members or on Michael Meehan? Any comments? Ken.
Yeah, no, yeah. Mr. Chairman, just first of all, I want to recognize Michael's important and critical service. I think for those of us who are the newbies, now we're the older members of the board. We're no longer the pledges. Michael was a wonderful pledge master. He really initiated us well. No paddling involved, but he really sort of taught us, some of the basic things about asking tough questions when others didn't want to, and he also was very critical, particularly during the difficulties at RFE a few Christmases ago, when he gave up his Christmas break to try to figure out how to get RFE righted again. And that, and obviously on internet freedom, he did some very critical work. That being said, I am delighted that my old friend and my wife's workout partner, Karen Kornblau, is joining the board. joined the gym, but, and it means that their workouts will have to end earlier in the morning, at least on board meeting days.
Or we could start the board meetings at the gym, because God knows I need it. Thanks, Ken. Any other comments? Okay. So one quick other matter of business before we turn to the official matters of the board. So when I was nominated to this board, I spent 11 months between nomination and confirmation, and I came here every month and spent a couple days learning about this organization. And I have to say, one of the things that's been valuable to me is that year of basically being able to study this place without the authority to do anything. And people would ask me, why aren't you changing this? And I would say, I'm just a private citizen. I don't have any authority. Was invaluable because it forced me into learning. We are very honored to have Andy Lack here today, sitting over here to my side, probably off camera. I'm pleased to very off camera. And I'm pleased to inform you all that the processing of his appointment to the director position here to lead this agency is proceeding down the path and appears close to finalization, but it's not done yet. And I know that he is enjoying a similar process to what I enjoyed, which is the chance to learn without the responsibility to actually be in charge, which will change hopefully very soon. But right now he's here. We're really honored and pleased to have him here now and in the future. But at this board meeting, particularly with doing the deep dive on IBB later today, I think it's important that he was here for that. So welcome, Andy, and welcome everybody else who's here at the board meeting today. So before, as is our tradition and custom, before we turn to the business of the board, I'd like to draw attention to a couple things, including the threats to our journalists that we've faced in the last 2 months since our last meeting. Last week on December 10th, and by the way, I'm not going to list all of them. There's a lot of bad stuff happening, but just call out a couple instances. On December 10th, the world celebrated Human Rights Day, the day to mark the right to freedom of opinion and expression, the right to seek and receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. At the same time, while we were celebrating, Hadija Ismailova, an investigative journalist working with RFE-RL's Azerbaijani service, was sent to pretrial detention in Azerbaijan, unjustly punished for her reporting on government corruption and human rights abuses in that country. The arrest came 1 day after the Azeri president's chief of staff issued a blistering 60-page statement containing false allegations against Ismailova and RFE-RL's Baku's bureau staff and labeling them, quote, foreign agents. We are outraged by her treatment and call on the Azeri authorities to release her immediately. Omar al-Abadi, a reporter for Al-Hurra, Iraq, and his cameramen were attacked and shot at, and their reporting equipment was destroyed by ISIL militia. The reporters escaped, but with minor injuries. Chinese authorities have detained the brothers of Sharet Hashur, reporter for RFA's Uyghur service, in an attempt to silence his reporting on unrest in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. And Al-Hurra's Bashar Fahmy, who was last seen or heard from during a reporting trip in Aleppo, Syria more than 2 years ago, is still missing. And as usual, we call for anybody that has any knowledge about him to please come forward immediately. Speaking for all the board members, we take very seriously the safety of our journalists and their families, who are often targeted by governments that do not tolerate a free press. We hope the tension here in Washington and among international advocates helps improve the dire situations of our people and their families and rectify these gross allegations of human rights. So I also want to, we have a big honor here this morning. We're going to be considering a resolution honoring the 65th anniversary of the VOA Ukrainian service. Very appropriate time to do that. VOA Ukrainian has a long and proud tradition of providing the people of Ukraine with objective and accurate information. Before we get to the resolution, we have a very special guest with us this morning who wishes to recognize a key member of the outstanding VOA Ukrainian service. I'd like to ask David ENSOR to quickly do the honor of introducing our special guest. David.
Is the mic on here? Great. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's my very great honor to introduce to the board and to welcome His Excellency Alexander MOTSYK, who is the ambassador of Ukraine to the United States, to our meeting. The ambassador is representing his nation at a time of great urgency for Ukraine and of great importance for Ukraine's relationship with our country. He is, I know, very highly regarded in this town for his effectiveness in this important role at this very important time. This marks the second time in a little over a week, Mr. Ambassador, that you've been in this building. Last Thursday, you were one of the distinguished guests at the celebration event for our the 65th anniversary of our Ukrainian service. And that was where you announced that President Petro Poroshenko had awarded Miroslava Gongadze, the anchor of the Ukrainian Service's flagship TV program Chas Time, the Order of Princess Olga, an award your country bestows on women of particularly outstanding personal merit. The award is, of course, a great honor for Miroslava, but I, and also I think I can speak for members of the board, are also honored by the award and by the fact that you have so kindly agreed to present it to Ms. Gongadze yourself here at this meeting of the BBG. So may I call you to the microphone, Mr. Ambassador? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Director, for a very nice presentation. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to visit today the Voice of America, the U.S. public broadcaster, and to follow the personal instructions of President Petro Poroshenko by presenting a high state award to Miroslava Gongadze. The award, Princess Olga Order of Third Class, demonstrates Ukraine's government appreciation of the operations of the Voice of America, in particular of the Voice of America of Ukrainian Service, which celebrated its 65th anniversary last week. The Voice of America was a ray of freedom for Ukrainians during the Soviet times. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Voice of America actively supported the development of independent, democratic, and pro-European Ukraine throughout the 23 years of its independence. For almost half of that period, Miroslava has been the face of the Voice of America Ukrainian service. And thank you very much to you for that. We are deeply grateful to the U.S. government, the Congress, as well as to the people of the United States for their sincere support and trust in Ukraine, especially in this very tough and difficult period of Ukrainian history. The recent adoption of the Ukraine Freedom Support Act by the Congress of the United States was a vivid example of that. I'd like to express my special thanks to the staff of the Voice of America and to the staff of the Voice of America Ukrainian Service and to Miroslava Gongadze in particular. We highly appreciate this support. And the award of Princess Olga Order to Miroslava Gongadze by President of Ukraine Petro Poroshenko demonstrates such appreciation. Miroslava, please allow me to present the award to you, as well to express our deep gratitude for your very hard work, for your very strong civic position, and for your great contribution to Ukrainian, to the development of Ukrainian democracy and civil society.
Say that I'm very, very happy to work here, and I'm happy to serve my native country, Ukraine, and I'm happy to serve my adopted country, United States. Thank you.
Thank you very much once more. Thank you very much once more.
Thank you, Ambassador, for being here and doing that. And Miroslava, and by the way, Ambassador, I know you're very busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time, and I know you're going to have to run out of here. Miroslava, we're all very proud of you. Congratulations for all your work, and keep doing the good work. Thank you. So I want to pause for a second now to mark the passing of Mark Helmke, who died on November 1st. And I'd like to invite Governor Matt Armstrong to make a few remarks about Mark.
Thank you. On November 1st, Mark Helmke passed away at the age of 62. I don't know how many people in the room know him. I know there are several, or knew him. There are several. He was a former journalist, a political reporter, Fort Wayne News Sentinel, and then he ultimately got on to Senator Lugar's staff. And first as press secretary, but then the communications director on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I met him as I searched my calendar. I think it was January 18th, 2008. I met him. And for those that know him, know that he was a staunch supporter of public diplomacy, a staunch supporter of the Broadcasting Board of Governors, a staunch supporter of media freedom. He was critical in the establishment of the Center for International Media Assistance, for example, at NED. So he also fought for changing the Smith-Mundt Act. He was just a critical friend, an important friend to the BBG. And I found him to be a great friend and a very good person. And it was regret that I read about his passing. He moved to Indiana after this, and I was still living in Chicago at the time. And he and I had been talking how I'd get down to his lake house and we'd go chat. And then I moved to London, and now I regret I didn't make that time. So thanks for the opportunity. So I just wanted to make sure we recognize. And then on a lighter note, I want to recognize a friend of mine's birthday, Craig Hayden, professor of public diplomacy, who's here. But one side, the other side, so a little lighter note. So happy birthday, Craig. Thank you.
Craig looks like he's 21 today. I don't know. Happy birthday, Craig. Thank you for that, Matt. And then finally, before we turn to board business, yesterday was a surprising day on a number of levels. Most notably, the news out of down the street here regarding Cuba, and I didn't want this board meeting to happen without having Carlos come and address the board and the public. You know, I know it's very early days, Carlos, and we don't know a lot of facts, but we'd be interested in hearing a couple minutes of kind of your perspective on what was announced and how the Maltese are covering the story, and what reaction, if any, you've heard from on the island, and just any thoughts you have really quickly in front of the board about yesterday's news.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I will confirm that I did not sleep last night. Everybody's asking me the same question, so there was no sleep last night. It's been it's been a whirlwind at the Maltese. It's been a whirlwind in Cuba last 48 hours. But I also, when I took this job 4 years ago, and I got the first call from the White House in February of 2009. I'll never forget this. And I quit my job, my profession, the law firm, the whole 9 yards. Everybody knows that. A lot of people told me that I was crazy. You know, why are you doing that? And I was like, you know, I just feel this is the right thing to do. I wanted to serve. I want to be a public servant. I want to be a public servant at this age. So I say that because I got text messages from people that I haven't heard in 2 years, 3 years, that told me that it was incorrect to take this job, telling me that they told me that it was a good idea to take this job. So I was having a good time with that yesterday. But the moment really was yesterday in the morning when I was getting on the plane, and I get a text message from our general manager and tells me, do you know the news? And I had to shut kind of knew what was going on superficially, but, he explained to me and they went at it. And they really have done a tremendous job. And the job that they did yesterday is a result of 4 years of transforming radio and TV Marti, what is known today as we call ourselves Martino, the Martis, to a cutting-edge organization within a federal entity. I had a great sense of relief because when I first got there, we were always talking about when Fidel died, that's going to be the big event. I was like, well, Raul dies, that's going to be the big event. Well, the moment was yesterday. Whether we like it, we're in favor or against it, was yesterday. Yesterday was a historic event for Cuba, for the United States, and the Martis handled it beautifully. We did not have to change the way we operate. We had journalists on the ground that we have developing for the last 2 years. We had great reactions from the island. We had great reactions from the Cuban exile community. And I think this agency, not because I'm here, I'm not saying it because I get paid to do this, I think you should all be very proud of the job that the Martis and the journalists in Cuba have done. The reaction from the island, Mr. Chairman, is one that is, if you talk to the opposition, it's divided, as well as the exile community. When you talk to the people out on the streets in Cuba, there's a certain sense of relief, but very cautious. Because the bottom line is what changed yesterday was the diplomatic relationships between the United States and Cuba. There were no elections in Cuba yesterday. There's no free press in Cuba. They still violate the human rights of their population in many ways. So I think as an agency that cares very much about the free flow of information, we have to be very cautious going forward, what we do and what we present. And I think the value of the BBG and the Martis, the stock has risen substantially now because this is a new world. This is a new game, a game that we have been preparing for the last 4 years. As you know, we ramped up the digital components of our operation. We provide news that people can use on the island, and we're very focused on our audience in Cuba. So I'm very proud of the accomplishments that that the team in Miami and in Cuba have done. I thank the board for the support, for listening. There's many cool things that we're doing that the board is aware. New board members are not aware of it, but I'm looking forward to telling you in a more private setting the things that we're doing. I happened to be in a State Department meeting yesterday that I still get the chills being a second-generation Cuban. My father fought with Fidel in the hills. Then he was in the Bay of Pigs. My father was all over the place. But he cared very much about his country. And I was very proud to be there. I was very proud to be there as a representative of the BBG. I'm not sure that, that would have happened before. And I was very happy because of my heritage. And like the woman that just received the award, I am blessed that I can serve two countries that I care very much about. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos, and thanks for all the work. And I've had a chance to go down to Miami a couple times and meet members of the exile community, and it is a new day. So it's great that you guys are ready. So that's exciting. Almost as exciting as the consent agenda, which we're about. So now let's get to the business of the board. With all that out of the way, we actually now have, believe it or not, we have 8 of our 9 seats on the board filled. There's only one last seat that has not been filled that we're hoping to have filled in the coming months. But quorum used to be a big issue. It's fortunately not an issue anymore. And we have 5 or more governors, which satisfies the board's quorum requirement today. So we may conduct business based on a majority vote, quorum being present. On December 4th, the board received by email materials for the consent agenda, allowing sufficient time for all of the governors to review prior to this meeting. I asked for and did not receive any comments from governors on this consent agenda. There's actually 3 items on the consent agenda today. One is the minutes from the October 30th, 2014 meeting. The second is the resolution honoring Voice of America's Ukrainian service that we referred to. And the third is a resolution honoring Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Radio Marshall 5th anniversary. So I would like to ask if any governors have additional comments on the consent agenda. Okay, does any governor want to move that we adopt the consent agenda? So moved. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? I'm going to ask if there's any abstentions from anybody. I don't know, Governor Kempner, or you're actually the only voting. If you probably don't want to vote on the minutes if you want to abstain. Okay. So let me note, Paul, that there's all in favor with the exception of Governor Kempner, who abstains from the vote, and the motion is carried. As we do every meeting, members of the public who register or attend our open meetings have the opportunity to request a chance to speak for up to 3 minutes. And we have a limit of 10 speakers per meeting. We've not yet hit that limit. We are hoping that we hit that limit at some point. We fortunately have several members of the public here today, again, 3 of whom have registered to speak. Ann Noonan, Carolyn Pasuti, and Alan Heil. Let's start with Ann. Ann, why don't you come up to the table, introduce yourself, and address the board, and thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. My name is Ann Noonan. I'm the Executive Director for the Committee for U.S. International Broadcasting. CUSIB would like to welcome the 3 new BBG governors, Ambassador Karen Kornblue, Mr. Michael Kempner, and Dr. Leah Aron, and extend to them any assistance our organization might be able to provide. We wish the very best to Governor Michael Meehan as he departs the BBG. He will be missed. CUSIB remains concerned about the plight of the employees of the Office of Cuba Broadcasting who were illegally fired 5 years ago. The part of the arbitrator's mandate for the workers to be reinstated has still been ignored by the BBG. It is rumored that OCB intends to put these talented journalists and workers on administrative leave. They have only received part of the compensation that is due to them. In regard to the case of Mr. Luis Gardia, he has been completely left out. On the November 21st, AFGE Local 1812 filed the appropriate motion on his behalf, and we still wait. The BBG has torn apart the lives of these federal government employees, and we were assured in June that this would be resolved by August. It's December. Now, when so much will be changing in regard to U.S.-Cuba relations with President Obama's restoration of diplomatic ties, how much more timely could it be than now to bring back these seasoned journalists? CUSIB remains concerned that the BBG has not yet settled its overseas discrimination lawsuits brought against Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, by its former employees in Prague, an Armenian citizen, Anna Karapetian, and a Croatian national, Cezana Pelivan. Will these cases ever get resolved, and what role can CUSIB play to help? CUSIB will be filing a FOIA request to the Voice of America, seeking all and any electronic video and audio copies and any emails that VOA Director David ENSOR might have sent and or received about the very disturbing presentation he made to ridicule the efforts of former BBG Governor Ambassador Victor Ashe, former BBG employees, as well as a Jehovah's Witness publication. It is unconscionable for any federal employee to demonstrate religious intolerance in a punchline and expect his underlings to enjoy the jab. A holiday party is no excuse. There are tasteful ways of making fun, usually at oneself if you are a VOA director, and this was not one of those times. It is extraordinary for the director of a U.S. taxpayer-funded broadcaster to mock an independent U.S. media outlet and independent U.S. journalists. It's so ugly for anyone who stands for freedom to mock American public input and public opinion. Ted Lippian works very hard as an American to help improve an agency that, even according to the Wall Street Journal, has degraded. Ted is hardly an egotist. He is more than generous with his time and effort to help promote human rights and workers' rights. How many people at this table have privately emailed, phoned, and met with Ted Lippian for hours and hours of free advice? His knowledge on BBG matters is invaluable, and you all know it. I'd like to try to leave on a high note and say how much CUSIB appreciates the efforts of Radio Free Asia Cantonese Services for their exclusive interview about Chen Qi-tang. We will continue to advocate for more funding for surrogate broadcasting. CUSIB hopes 2015 will bring more order and progress to the BBG. We look forward to Andy Lack beginning his position here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. And sorry you missed the RFA potluck yesterday, which was one of the highlights of the year, especially Libby's mother's cooking, which is absolutely fantastic. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, board members and colleagues, and a special warm welcome to Andy Lack. We are very anxious for you to start here, Mr. Lack. And welcome to the new governors, Governor Kempner, Kornblau, and Aaron. My name is Carolyn Pursuti, and I'm a TV correspondent with Central News here in D.C., and I'm one of your 2 delegates to this year's Executive Leadership Program, the program that teaches high-potential future managers the correct way, the successful way to lead within the government. I've been here nearly 4 years full-time and several years prior to that as a contractor. But regretfully, I didn't attend my first BBG meeting until last month. As a reporter, you know, I question everything. And I'd like to think that you want me that way. So I have several questions as to procedure, along with suggestions for you to consider. Last month, I was shocked to discover the board allows no time for open questions. We reporters think on our feet as topics come up. So during that meeting, I and others had questions that only pertained to what was being announced at the time. As a reporter, I find solutions too. And I'd like to think you want me that way too. So how about continuing the tradition of signing up, but then afterwards, opening the floor up for impromptu questions for the final 20 minutes? Yes, it might put some outside of their comfort zone, but sometimes that's what it takes for progress. And I'd like to think that we all can think of on our feet, as I know all the board members can. Secondly, a resolution about the future of VOA was mentioned at the last meeting. Then a revised resolution was mentioned. The committee of board members was chosen, but at no point did we, the audience, hear a reading of the resolution. In this age of transparency, which I know the board embraces, that needs to be done. So I would like to respectfully request that you read the resolution at this meeting, review the goals of the committee that was created by the resolution, and what has been accomplished thus far. Also, it would be helpful if this is also printed somewhere so my other colleagues can read it. Thirdly, a large vocal group of us in Central News hopes that if HB 4490 is reincarnated next year, it includes no changes to our journalistic charter of unbiased reporting. That is the bedrock of our credibility. It is what keeps our colleagues safe in other often unfriendly countries. It is why many of us are here. We pride ourselves on our 2-sourcing rule and the ability to air in countries that control their media. Our charter is why most of us work here today, because frankly, that's what's missing in the industry outside these walls. If that is taken away, I'm afraid you wouldn't have many true journalists who would stay here. VOA is a brand. VOA is known world over for credibility, trust, and unbiased reporting. No one should be allowed to take that away. Thank you for giving me the time to speak today, and I look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thanks, Carolyn. It's really nice to have you here today, and we want all those things as well. I will say our policy as a board is not to respond impromptu to speakers who come up here. We generally try to respond to every speaker kind of behind the scenes. I do believe, though, that the VOA resolution is public on the website. And, Carolyn, if it's not, we'll make sure that it is, because everything we talk about here should be public. This is an open board. And also your other suggestions we'll consider. I think they're good ones. And last but not least, Alan, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the new members of the board and to Andy Lack for joining this organization at a time of great change, great opportunity. Warmest of holiday greetings to all of you. and to my colleagues at the other networks besides the Voice of America that are part of this organization. It is time for a fresh look. It is time for celebration, as befits the season. With an entirely new board and the appointment of a highly qualified CEO to focus on day-to-day operations, 2015 shapes up as a year of unprecedented opportunity. The board at last can move beyond minutia and focus on the big picture, as I think, Jeff, you said at your first meeting that you chaired, now what is it, 15 months ago. To that end, I have drafted a new mission statement, or charter, if you will, that you might consider would be applicable to all of U.S. international broadcasting. It's reasonably succinct, and I'd like to share it with you this morning, I hope within the next 2.5 minutes. A mission for American global media in the 21st century. America's publicly funded civilian international broadcast networks will sustain and strengthen U.S. national security by serving as an accurate, credible, and comprehensive source of news and analysis about events in the United States and other countries in a dangerous and often unpredictable world. The networks will explore and expand ways to reach demographically diverse mass audiences through combinations of content and multimedia delivery systems tailored regionally. They will reflect America, its policies, debate on these policies, and American culture and history. U.S. global media's greatest gift to users in English and other languages will be to engage them real time in a planet where less than a third of the countries have totally free media. The networks will present a balanced cross-section of American thought and opinion and that of societies that they reach. They will be forever agile, adjusting delivery systems to rapidly changing national U.S. strategic needs and, of course, the humanitarian needs of the users. They will be guided by the VOA Charter, Public Laws 94-350 and 103-415, and the codes that presently govern the grantee networks. They'll be guided by a commitment to promote freedom of expression through their own reportage and assistance to other free media. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They will be guided by a congressional mandate to communicate information and ideas among peoples, thereby contributing to the common welfare of all. Public Laws 103-236 and 105-277. They will be guided by a pledge to engage, enlighten, and empower audiences that are reached, strengthening particularly those who seek healthier, more prosperous, and more peaceful lives, consistent with justice and their God-given human rights. In the 21st century, media are increasingly interactive, using solid research, challenged by a global thirst for news and analysis of exceptional quality. U.S. international networks will share information, not shout it. They will combine old and new media to produce now media in a highly competitive information age. They will marshal credible smart power. It's what I call a force multiplier of national security. Their ultimate goal, as John Chancellor once said, will be to bring the bright dream of a new day into the dark corners of the world. End of text. Thank you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Alan. That was great and wonderful. Thank you for being here. So we are generally at these meetings we do a deep dive and then we do a panel on something else. Because of the holidays, we're actually not going to do a panel on something else. We're going to adjourn the meeting after the next session and go award the Burke Awards, which is a honorable day here instead. But in February, we'll return to our format that we've had before. So what I'd like to do is take a 10-minute break here. People, please stay close while we set up for the IBB deep dive, and let's reconvene here in 10 minutes or less for the deep dive on the IBB. Thank you.